this experiment you need fluorine, benzoic acid, and 3 solvents, 95% hexanes, 5% ethanol, and toluene. You also need to clearly label test tubes. One set for fluorine and another set for benzoic acid. Place a small amount of benzoic acid in each of the test tubes. About 2 milliliters of solvent to each test tubes. Mix it a little bit so you can see if it dissolves, if benzoic acid dissolves in the solvent. Place a tiny amount of fluorine into each of the test tubes. Add 2 milliliters of the solvent. green is not soluble in the mixture of ethanol and hexanes. It is also not soluble in ethanol, and it completely dissolved in toluene. Benzoic acid did not completely dissolve in mixture of ethanol and hexanes. It completely dissolved in ethanol, and it did not dissolve in toluene. For the samples that are not soluble at room temperature, place the sample in a hot water bath. result in the mixture of hexanes and ethanol. Fluorine did not dissolve in hot ethanol. For the second part of the experiment, you need to measure about 0.6 grams of impure benzoic acid. Make sure that you record the exact math. You also need to put about 20-25 milliliters of hexanes ethanol mixture. Add some boiling chips and put it on a hot plate and bring it to a boil. Transfer benzoic acid into a 50 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask and then bring the solvent to a boil. Then slowly add hot solvent Erlenmeyer flask with benzoic acid. When all of the benzoic acid dissolved, remove it from the heat and let it cool down to room temperature. When the mixture reached room temperature, you can already see that there is some recrystallization occurring. We can put it on ice bath to complete the process. For next part, you need to set up vacuum filtration station. So for that you need 2 filter flasks, 2 pieces of black vacuum tubing, rubber stopper with the glass tube, and the Buchner funnel with the gasket. To set up for vacuum filtration, first you need to secure the filter flasks. Next, attach the vacuum tubing to the glass tube and put it in one of the flasks. The other end will go to the other filter flask. Make sure it fits tightly. Another vacuum tubing will be attached to the next filter flask and to the vacuum. And you put a Buchner funnel in this filter flask. To start vacuum, you open vacuum valve underneath the hood. To filter your benzoic acid, put a piece of filter paper in the Buchner funnel, open the vacuum, and pour the contents of the Erlenmeyer flask into the funnel. Once you did this, rinse it with ice-cold mixture of hexanes and ethanol. To measure a melting point, you need to put a little bit of your sample in a capillary tube, like this one. You don't need a lot, just a tiny bit. So now you need to get that sample to the bottom of the tube. To do that, you can either tap on the countertop, or you can use a tube like this one and kind of drop it so it gets to the bottom. So you can see the sample is now on the bottom of the tube. Once your sample is on the bottom of the tube, you put it in a melt temp instrument. Make sure it's on, and you can see the light there, and you put the sample in over here. There is a small window where you can observe your sample. Once the sample is melted, you check the temperature, and that will be your melting point. For your TLC experiment, you need a small sample of fluorine, benzoic acid, impure benzoic acid, and you need to make a sample of your recrystallized benzoic acid. So to make a TLC sample, place a little bit of your recrystallized benzoic acid in a test tube. And add 1 or 2 milliliters of methylene chloride. colors that we have in Hawkhole, you need 10 milliliters of solvent. Before you run a TLC plate, place the solvent in the jar and leave it for a little bit. It will allow to saturate the atmosphere. Mark TLC plate using a pencil. Then use micropipettes to spot the plate. Dip the micropipette into the solution. Then lightly touch the plate to make a spot. After you are done, place the TLC plate in the jar. When the solvent is about 1 inch from the top of the plate, remove the plate from the jar. And quickly mark the solvent front with the pencil before it dries out. Use a UV lamp to visualize the spots and mark the location of the spots using a pencil. In the end, you should have a TLC plate.